Hello and welcome to episode 132 of the Mouses Makes Knitting Podcast. My name is Mandy, sometimes known as Mouse, and this is a bit of a special episode because I'm going to tell you all about the Sodbury Yarn Over that I went to at the weekend, and also the weekend marked the 3rd anniversary of the podcast. So we're going to talk about that in a bit as well. But before I do any of that, I have got some knitting to show you. So I'm going to show you some knitting. I'm going to show you a prize that I won. Then I'm going to talk about the Sodbury Yarn Over. And then I'm going to talk about the anniversary. So if you want to skip any of that, feel free. Knitting, first of all, I've finished the first pair of what I'm calling Project Bed Sock. If you missed last week's episode, a friend of Dave's has asked me to make 6 pairs of bed socks for his wife, and it's a surprise. So I've finished pair number 1. They are still quite wet, and I'm drying them flat. The pattern is the Rye pattern by Tin Can Knits, which I think is a free pattern. I'm fairly sure it's a free pattern. I messed it up. This section on the front should be garter stitch, and I accidentally did reverse stocking stitch, so I've just made them match. The yarn I used, main yarn, is my own hand dyed lemon and lime colourway. And for the heels, I used a Drops Fable. Can't remember what number it was, but it's like a grassy green. And I held the yarn double, so these are DK weight. And I'm going to put them down because, as I say, they are quite damp. And I don't want to, I've been blocking them flat. I don't want to mess up what's happened so far. I've also cast on the second pair. I've dyed up all the yarn. They're all to be green, which is fine by me because green is one of my very favourite colours. More about that later. And I've started the second pair. These are also going to be Tin Can Knits Rye pattern, but these are going to be Rye Light, which is the fingering weight version. So I've done this much on both socks, well, a bit more than that on the other sock. And this yarn is just a one of a kind that I dyed up at the end of my dyeing session the other day. Just threw a load of different greens at it, and unfortunately didn't make any notes because I was just doing it for this. And I really like, let me see if I can put this down without knocking. I've got stuff balanced everywhere. Without knocking everything down, I will show you. There you go. So I will try and recreate it because I really like it. And I like the way it's knitting up as well. So Murphy's Law says that of course I didn't write down a recipe because it was just going to be a one-off. Never mind. Apart from that, the only knitting that I've got to show you, because I'm in that same situation where I've been knitting but nothing looks like I've knit on anything on it, I knit the next square onto my variegated Birthstones collection blanket. So I've put in April. And again, this was held double. So that's how it looks knit up, held double. And last week somebody asked me how many grams each of these squares takes. And I said roughly 75 to 80, and it actually took 73 grams. I weighed it. That's holding it double and on a 3.75mm needle at my gauge. which I discover when compared to my friends. We got into talking about sock knitting and measuring our feet and sock gauges the other night on Zoom. It was one of those evenings. And on a 2.25 needle, all right, this is a 3.75. On a 2.25 needle, I get 7 stitches to the inch. And they were getting... No, that makes me loose, doesn't it? They were getting like 8.5. I don't know. So basically everybody's gauge varies, but around 73 grams. So I think if you allow yourself probably 70 to 80, you should be okay. So yeah, that was really the biggest piece of knitting that I did this week. I'm really pleased with it. It's very pretty. There's noise downstairs, but I think it's Ewan coming in from the gym. Or it's cats creating chaos. It could be either. Right. What did I say I was going to talk about next? A prize. I won a prize. We're only 6 minutes in. Where to start? There's a couple of ladies who are starting up dyeing their own yarn. And I joined their group on Facebook. They're called Ragtails. Let me find it. There you go. So Ragtails with 2 G's. They have a Ko-fi shop and an Etsy shop, I think. I'm going to link their Ko-fi shop down below because I follow that, so I know I can find it for the link. But as I say, there is also a group on Facebook if you wanted to join that. Anyway, they're starting up. I'm not sure if they've actually opened the shop yet. I think they have. But they were running a competition for some of their yarn. You may have seen some of their yarn if you watch Caroline from the Aria Bark podcast. They sent her some to review and she raved about it. And as you know, she's a friend of mine. So yeah, I joined their group and I won a prize. Oops, I've lost one. Hang on. And it was a prize for this set of neons. And as you can see, I won it. So I think what I'm going to do with these is some striped fingerless gloves. And I'm in 2 minds whether to split each little skein into 2. I want to knit some fingerless gloves and I want to do them as a sock tube and put in an afterthought thumb. I know it's insanity when I could just knit them ordinarily. And I might just knit them ordinarily because I really like the Pioneer mitts. I didn't enjoy knitting them. They're ribbed. The whole thing is ribbed. But they fit really nicely because they're ribbed. They snug onto your hand. So I could knit those, but I've got a hankering to knit a sock tube. I did start one and then pulled it down because I didn't like the cuff I'd put on it. So I haven't currently got one in progress. So that's what I might do with these and use the black for the ribbing. It's a plan. It is, where's the piece of paper I just put down? There it is. It is 75/25, so I could make socks with it. But I would prefer to make mitts. Watch this space. That plan will probably change 15 times between now and the time that I actually do something with it. You know what I'm like. Okay. You might be wondering, actually, this thought has just occurred to me. You might be wondering why I'm promoting, if you like, someone else who's dyeing yarn. And really, because I don't see any reason not to. As you know, and as I'm about to show you, I dye my own yarn, but I also buy yarn from other people. I buy Denise's from Dear Designs, Hayley's from Ducky Darlings, Amanda's from Little Lycax. Who else have I bought recently? Oh, Diane at Yew Tree Yarn Craft. They're probably my favourites. But yeah, I buy yarn from various people, and I think we all do. So what's the word I want to use? I can't think of the right word. But basically, it's just silly to pretend that no one else out there dyes yarn but me. You'll either buy my yarn or you won't. It's the same reason I don't, if I've got a prize or something, I don't make you wait till the end of the episode to see who's won it, because you'll either watch to the end of the episode or you won't. And the same reason I don't say, remember to like and subscribe on every episode, because you either will or you won't. You know how YouTube works. If you don't want to subscribe, I'm not going to make you. So I just don't think there's any reason not to show you some beautiful yarn that somebody else has dyed. I show you Diane's, I show you Denise's, I show you Hayley's. Why would I not show you this? It's a big world out there, and there's plenty of room for plenty of people doing the same thing, because we're all doing it slightly differently. And, you know, we all have our favourites. There are yarn dyers out there. I'm on a spiel now, aren't I? There are yarn dyers out there whose yarn is beautiful, but it's not quite to my taste. I can think of two immediately, but I'm not going to say, because that's not fair. Because just because I don't like it doesn't mean that other people don't like it. And why should I try and influence other people's opinions? My brain is now running away with me. I'm just going to stop talking about that now. And I'm going to tell you about the Sodbury Yarn Over. It was their first show in Chipping Sodbury in Gloucestershire. It's just sort of to the right of Bristol. Took us about an hour and a half to get there. We only went on Sunday. And it was a really, really good day. You've probably seen other podcasters talking about it. I know other podcasters were there. It was spread over two sites, mostly the town hall, and then there were 2 rooms in the old grammar school as well. Unfortunately, I only got into one of the rooms. The other room, which was where Rosie's Moments and a couple of other people I wanted to see, was a tiny room. It was really, really small, and I had to take my, what I call, very un-PC and very rude, I call it my granny trolley. You know, it's a walker on wheels with a little seat and a basket. I just couldn't get in there. It was too crowded. So Dave dropped me off while he went to find somewhere to park, because TMI, I know, but I needed to powder my nose, shall we say. I'm like Pavlov's dog. I can go for hours at home without needing to, but the minute I get in the car, I need to go straight away. And I'd managed a whole hour and a half, but no, I did actually need to go. So he dropped me off, I went in, found the ladies' room, came out to find Dave doing the exact same thing. So we found each other really easily. And then I did like what I like to call my first pass. Did my first pass round all the stalls in the town hall. Made a note of some things that I wanted to buy. And sorry, my friends are chatting and it keeps coming up on the screen, which is distracting me. Okay, step back in time a few days. I had said there were some ladies there who were going to be demonstrating hand spinning. Spinning with a distaff, spinning with a drop spindle. They were all in medieval dress. They looked absolutely fabulous. And I'd said to Dave, oh, I'd like to see them. I'm interested in drop spindle spinning. So the next thing I knew, he was on Etsy going, oh, what about this one? No, that's not like, I want a Turkish spindle with the cross at the bottom. Oh, okay. So he's off looking for one of those. Anyway, we're walking around And my policy was, don't buy anything on the first pass. Have a look, see what you might like, and then have a think about it and come back for a second go round. So I was looking at something and he kept bringing me these drop spindles. We hadn't seen the ladies upstairs yet. He just kept bringing me these drop spindles. What about this one? What about that one? You know, that's not really what I'm looking for. Okay. What about this one? What about that one? Yeah, they're really nice. That is the sort of thing that I'm after. They're made out of reclaimed windows, he said. And apparently they're made down in Cornwall. I've immediately forgotten the name of the place. Can't remember. But basically it's a yarn shop anyway. I did look it up on the web. And they're made from window frames that double glazing companies have taken out to put their double glazing windows in. And so he bought me this. Now, this seemingly benign piece, 3 pieces of wood, drove me to absolute distraction yesterday. It is possible that there was a blue cloud above my house from all the swearing that went on, and the anger and the putting it down so that I could gather myself before I had another go. I've watched people doing it on YouTube tutorials. Sorry, I was going to do something then. There's a thing sticking out and I was going to tuck it back in and that would have flipped you up like that. You'd have ended on the floor. It would have been a disaster. And calm. I've watched many YouTube tutorials. I did not get to see the lady doing it because when we got up there, we didn't get up there till the very end. I'm kind of skipping ahead now. We didn't get up there till the very end and there were 2 ladies. She was right in the corner and there were 2 ladies standing in front of her and I just could not. I kept saying, excuse me please, and they didn't hear me. And I couldn't stand and wait for them to be finished watching and move. I'd had it by then. So that would probably, there's one of my hairs. Excuse me, I seem to have managed to spin one of my hairs. That would probably have been very helpful for me to have been able to speak to someone who was actually doing it. But I've watched many YouTube tutorials. One of them involving a very smug man standing in a forest leaning against a tree doing it. Now that was just taking the mickey because I'd had it by then. But anyway, I think I know what I'm doing wrong. I've watched another tutorial this morning that my friend Sarah from the Fibre Sanctuary sent me, who when she found out I got this went, oh Mandy, I had one for 3 days and then I had to buy a proper wheel. It's fantastic. So far it has not been fantastic. So far it has been the source of 1 or 2 arguments. So I'm fairly certain I know what I'm doing wrong. Hopefully next week I'll be able to show this to you and there'll be a lovely little ball, which I know is called a cob or a turtle, of yarn on there that I have spun. Because not only did he buy me this, but I also have the stuff with which to spin the yarn. Let me show you. It does look a little bit messy because I've been trying. So there's this, which is beautiful, and this came from Yarn Tings. This lady does this stuff, which is Polworth fibre. She does these fibre braids and she does also dye yarn, and she's got beautiful yarn. When I saw her at the Southern Wool Show, she had some silk, and I've got a pattern for a silk tee, but I just could not justify spending the money on it. and I felt really bad because she's such a lovely lady and she was so helpful. So I'm glad that I bought something from her this time. He bought me this. This is what I started with, and I now know that it doesn't have a long enough staple. This is not suitable for beginners. This came from Pennylan Fibre Flock. It was Welsh wool, and he's very proud of his Welsh heritage, and so he thought I could knit him some fingerless mitts with this once I'd spun it. There's only 50 grams of it, so I'm not sure. I might have to add something to it. I'm trying to find, here we are. Oh, the Hive they're called, the people who make this. It's the Hive in Looe in Cornwall. And let me put these back in. As you can see, it's like trying to repack the entrails of some poor creature. Look at this, look. That was my best effort, but I took it off, and having taken it off, it unwound. But I know how now that I've watched yet another video, I know how to deal with the fact that some of it has got too much twist in it. I know how to deal with it now. And then I also got this, which is called Humbug, and it's Corriedale Rainbow Zebra, and it was from Crafty Cat Knitty Bits, and that's Debs, who is one of the organisers, human servant to the lovely Tom. And I got these also, and this from her. So that was over in the old grammar school, and I went over there because that's where my friend Amanda from Little Lycac had her stall, which was absolutely beautiful. And I'd taken a present for her, and she also gave me a gift, and she gave me these two. She'd put a picture on Instagram of her stall once she'd set it up, and I commented and said, oh, I can see at least one there that's got my name on it, because these are not her usual palette. And yeah, so she gave them to me, and they're called Kiki. They're 75.25. They will probably end up being a tea, because let's face it, that's what I do with most things. And when I went back into the town hall, when we finally went upstairs, which was the last place we visited was upstairs, I went to Otter and Papoose, and I bought this to go with it. I don't know how well it's showing up there. Let me turn it around a bit like that. They're going to look really nice together. So I also bought from Otter and Papoose these little earrings, and they are, I could have made them myself, but it was her first show and I wanted to support her. And yes, I had already bought skein of yarn, but I didn't have the patience to make them, and they were very reasonably priced. They are on sterling silver hooks, so yeah, and they are my favourite shade of green. Now, all joking aside, we know that all the colours are my favourite colour. This is well known within the podcast, but within each colour I have a favourite shade, and this is one of my favourite shades of green. This and olive, probably, with this coming out first and olive second. So yeah, I bought them. And while I was in that room that Amanda was in, I found Piccalilli, and I bought this little Pussycat yarn holder thing with a popper, 2 poppers in fact, so I think you can popper it up. I don't really know how I'm supposed to use it, but I'm sure it can't take as much working out as the spindle has done. So I bought that, again, very reasonably priced, and I hadn't bought anything from her at the Southern Wool Show, and so I wanted to make up for that. And then my final purchase was this. I don't have any zebra yarn, and at the beginning of the year I said I was going to try and have a no-buy year, excluding yarn shows, so no one can tell me off, because 2/3 of that was a present, and this is something that I haven't got. It's called Jewels, and it does of course have all my favourite colours in it. It's by Fox and Squirrel, and it's 80% superwash merino, 20% nylon. It's high twist. It will probably, I don't know, because I could do various things with it. It could be colour work, that would be quite nice. It could be a hat or mitts or even gloves, you know, with fingers I mean. So we'll see. I do feel like I'd like to knit some gloves with fingers. I've got a really nice pattern, not for that yarn, but their colour work sort of here is colour work. So you do this in one colour, the fingers in another colour, and then the colour work is the 2 colours sort of across here. I would like to knit them, but I dislike knitting the fingers because they're fiddly, and I don't do fiddly, as you know. Anyway, back to the yarn show. I obviously met up with Amanda. I met a couple of other people who I got photographs with, which you may have seen on Instagram, and a very lovely lady who I neglected to get a photograph with, who is a viewer of the podcast and who managed to trap me in a corner. I'd already been trapped there for some time by a stall holder who just would not stop talking at me, and I only stopped to look because I needed a bit of a breather, and the next thing I knew I was there for 15 minutes being, what do they call it, when they sort of like aggressively try and sell you something. I mean, he was a lovely, lovely man, but just wouldn't let me go, and I can't stand still for long. I can walk for much, much longer than I can stand still. I think a lot of us are like that by the time we get to this age. Anyway, that's where Lynn found me, and so she trapped me in the corner and she gave me this little gift. Sorry if you heard that, that was my tummy rumbling. Which is lovely. I absolutely love it. Thank you so much, Lynn. It was nice to meet her, even though she did trap me in the corner to prevent my running away. Yes, so that was really the story of the yarn show. I will certainly go again. I really enjoyed it. Oh no, it's not. I bought more stuff. I didn't see it because it was hidden under one of the prizes that I'm going to talk about in a minute. If you watch Denise from Dear Designs, and I think a lot of you do, you will have seen that she just finished a tea in, it starts off pink I think and works its way through blues to purples, or does it, I can't remember, but it's pink, blue and purple, and it's it was from a cake. And it's from a cake by these people, Yarn Mixology, and I knew I wanted to buy a cake from them, but I didn't know what colour. And I stood for quite a long time looking at the stall on my second pass because I couldn't make up my mind. I did the same thing at Dragon Hill Studios. They do striped sock yarn, and I did this at the Southern Wool Show, and then I did it again at the weekend. I went in there, I really, really want to buy a cake of their yarn. But do you think I can make my mind up about which one? Not a chance. There are certainly 3 that I really, really like. And I know now which one I should have bought, because it's the one that comes immediately to my mind whenever I think of them. So if they have it at the Southern Wool Show, I'm going to get it. It's grey, and the stripe in between the grey stripes is speckled with pinks and blues, and it's really pretty. And it's really unusual. And I should have just bought it. But I'm the world's worst person at making my mind up, hence the fact that I now have 2 of these. The one that I originally looked at, I did not buy. There was another one that I liked very much, but it was very similar to this. It literally started off with that sort of pale, creamy peach and finished with this darker orangey peach. Literally almost the same. There was one that the lady on the stall suggested for me, but unfortunately the outer colour was one of the 2 colours that I really don't like. Sort of a dusty pink. I just don't like it. I don't know why. I don't like it. So I turned down the one that was this colour, because obviously I'd already got this from Amanda. And I was torn between these 2. This one, as you can see, is kind of a pinky purple, runs through black to almost a navy, and then a purple again at the end. And this one starts off kind of a denim-y blue and ends up brown. I thought that would look really nice with jeans. And this one is called Moonstone, which on some charts is my birthstone. And this one was called Temptation, and was very aptly named, because I couldn't make up my mind between them, so I ended up with both. I did think, because they come in different lengths, I thought I'd picked up this one in the 1200 metres, and I hadn't. I've picked it up in 1000, the same as this. I was hoping to make a tea out of this, and I'm not sure that I've got enough. I'll have a look and see. I know that I get a tea out of just under 3 skeins, so that's just under 1200 metres of fingering weight. But is it just under enough to manage to get one of these out long enough to satisfy my need to cover my tummy? I don't know. I may just have to go on a very, very extensive diet. If not, they will end up as shawls, which is fine. But I do have a lot of shawls, and I did buy them really because they're cotton. They are a cotton acrylic blend, and I did really buy them specifically to make a tea. Well, you can see this is a colour I like. I am wearing it currently because I thought they'd be nice and cool. And I have been set a challenge by the stall holders to have at least one of them knit up and wear it to the Southern Wool Show to show them. So I've got to do something, haven't I? Yes, so that was all I bought. And when it came down to the buying, I didn't really buy very much in the scheme of things, because 2 skeins I was given as a gift. The spinner and the fibre gift. So yeah, I was very lucky really. Oh, what was I going to say next? Can't remember. Oh yes, I do. The town hall, which is where the larger portion of stalls were, was right next door to the wool cellar, and the lady who runs the wool cellar, who I think's name is Jo, was the other organiser with Deb from Crafty Cat Knitty Bits. And I wanted to go in the shop and I didn't make it in there. I just ran out of steam. But now that we know where it is, and I have to go to the hospital in Bristol in May, I might try and persuade Mr. Davis to go up a bit early, and so we can have a little look in the wool shop. So yes, that I think was everything I needed to tell you about the wool show. So, 3rd anniversary of the podcast. Unbelievable. Even I didn't think I'd be doing it this long. It's had its rocky moments. There have been times when I've not been well enough to podcast, but you've all stuck with me, which is really lovely. Thank you so much. Thank you for listening to my drivel every week. And I thought, as it is the 3rd anniversary, I would sort out 3 prizes. So, I have this. This is a book with, admittedly, they're slightly basic patterns. There's scarves and cowls, neck warmers. I think that's, well, it's called Knitted Scarves and Cowls. So you're not going to find a sweater in here, clearly. Let me show you the picture on the back. There you go. This is quite fun. So yes, there's a book. There is this, which is a little pouch. This has got a strawberry on, and I think it's pale pink. I've not taken it out of the box. But basically it's like this. It's got a little carabiner on, and you pop open the fruit, and it's a little notions pouch or purse or whatever you want to do with it. And I also have this, which was a gift from a friend of the podcast, Patricia, and I thought you might like it. It's a very pretty bag. It's got a polka dot lining, and it has a little flower stitch marker as well. I don't know if you can see that very well. There we go. So there's those 3 prizes, because it is our 3rd anniversary. And if you would like to be entered, just comment below and put in your preferred prize. Let's do it that way, because then I can use a comment picker and tell it to look for bag, book or pouch. So just put bag, book or pouch in your comment. Do not say, I don't mind which one I win, I like them all, because that the comment picker won't pick that up. So if you want, put all 3, that's fine. And then I can use a comment picker to sort that out. And we'll do that next week, I think. Yes. So, if you don't really want to comment, you know, if you've got nothing else you want to say is what I mean, just put bag, book, pouch, whatever. If you want to comment but you don't really want to enter, don't put those words in. Then the comment picker won't pick you up. So I think that's that. Poppy update, as per usual, no change. She's eating a little more, she's drinking okay, but she won't eat cat food. She will only eat like deli meats, and she won't drink water. She will only drink cat milk. So either she is swinging the lead and just being a princess, or we're just giving her what she fancies because she's having a rough time. So yeah, no chance of seeing her again on the podcast anytime soon, I'm afraid. But she is still with us, which I didn't think she was going to be. So that's everything really, and I will see you next week. I'm just looking, because I nearly forgot those 2 cakes of yarn, and that would have been naughty. But I think I have done everything. Showed you the new... No, I haven't. I haven't done everything. I didn't show you this. I'm doing very, very poorly with working through the Shelf of Shame. very poorly indeed. Mainly because I keep knitting socks for people, and that takes my knitting time, and so the other stuff isn't getting done. How much have I done on my staff blanket since I saw you last? Possibly a row, a round, whatever you want to call it, and that's being generous. There may not have even been a whole one. But I fished this out. Oh, that's noisy. I fished this out to do. It's something I've been meaning to knit for a very long time, and I cast it on, I don't remember when, last year, might have been in the summer. It's the Midsummer Haze Cowl by Hoagie Locatelli, and you have this top bit, and then how do I describe it? It grows like a shawl until you get that triangle done. Then you join it together and you carry on with this lace. I've got 5 more repeats of the lace to do. I had thought when I pulled it out that I could have it finished in time to wear last weekend. Clearly I did not. The yarn I'm using is Cascade Heritage, and it is silver grey. I love Cascade Heritage yarn. It is fabulous for being soft. Sorry about the crinkling. I'm going to try and get a picture out to show you. I saw this on Craft House Magic's podcast. Ellie made one, might have been in 2020. A bohemian cowl that looks like a short but much easier to wear. I'm doubting myself now. I'm sure it's Hoagie Locatelli, but oh yes, because it says Hoagie up there. My thumb was on it. Yeah, that's how it looks when it's finished. So I really want to finish this. I really want to wear it. I'm thinking I might abandon the pulling things out the jar method and just start working my way through my list. This is actually the second item on the list. The first was a Stephen West shawl. Painting bricks, I think. So I'm going to finish this. Then I'm going to do the shawl. Then I'm going to move on to the next thing. And then I think that's tees, and then it's cardigans and sweaters, and then blankets, but I'm not going to include the blankets, and then socks, and then whatever I've cast on this year. But I am, of course, in the meantime, going to need to work on Peter's socks, Project Bed Sock, and there's a cast on party coming soon. And I've just told you that they're expecting to see something made out of those yarns in September, so I'm going to have to knit on one of those as well. But yeah, I'm just not enjoying knitting at the moment, because I'm a mixture of a process and a product, and at the moment I just want the product. Everything that I'm knitting, apart from my mitered square blanket, and Tonya from Calm as a Stitch said, "What do you mean by mindfully knitting it?" It's the only thing I'm enjoying knitting, quite frankly. So I sit down with it and I just enjoy making the stitches. Everything else has become a bit like a job. I'm just knitting through it to try and get it finished. It's a phase I'm going through. I'm probably going to cast a couple of new things on at the weekend, and that might cure me, who knows. But yes, at the moment, a bit annoyed with myself that we're already almost the middle of the way through April and I haven't finished very much off my shelf of shame at all. So on that happy note, I am going to go, and I will see you next week. And who knows, I might have finished this. I will have cast on some new things. Only one or two. I'm not going mad this year because I still have so much left over from last year. And yes, possibly even with a lovely little turtle on my spindle, or some ash where I've burnt the whole paraphernalia. I'm a very stubborn person, extremely stubborn, and I refuse to be beaten by a bit of wood and some fluffy stuff. I've beaten a lot of hard things in my life, many hard things. This is not going to best me. I will not give in. Right. So I'm going to go, having had a nice little rant, and yeah, I'll see you next week. Bye guys.